There's an old story that I researched it this week because I've heard it many times throughout the years, and I wondered if it was true or if it's just an illustration or an old wives' tale. But there's a story of how in Brazil they catch monkeys. They trap monkeys. And the way they do it is they take like a gourd or a coconut or something small and hollow it out through a very tiny hole. Then inside they'll put like rice or some kind of food, something very small on the inside, and the monkey will smell it, and he'll go and he'll put his hand inside the coconut because he wants that rice, that watery rice, and he'll make a fist to grab hold of it, and he can't pull his hand out of the hole. Now, if he just let go of the food that he thinks that is what he has to have, then he could get his hand out, he'd be rescued, or he'd be freed, whatever. But he refuses, and he's trapped, unwilling to give up what he thinks he needs most. July is our Sabbath month, where we intentionally let go of our schedule and our routine, and in return, we receive the freedom and peace that God gives us. Jesus said in Matthew 11, beginning in verse 28, "Come to me, all who labor and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." That sounds great. But in order for us to receive that rest that Jesus offers, we have to come to Him with open hands, letting go of that thing that we hold on to so tight, the thing that we try to control more than anything else, our time. Let's pray. Father, thank you for the gift of Sabbath. Thank you for carving out 1/7 of the week and for giving us the instruction to sanctify that day and make it holy. And in doing so, Father, you pour into us your peace, your rest, or we receive that. Forgive us for the times that we've not done it, and empower us to let go. In Jesus' name, amen. At the conclusion of service last week, I explained some of what's been going on with me and announced that I'm leaving on a month-long sabbatical. I've received some difficult medical diagnoses recently, including even this week. There are more things going on than what I explained last week. Just to keep you updated, been going to see a neurologist at USF in Tampa. She has fairly certain that I have what is called limb-girdle muscular dystrophy, but there's more genetic tests that are taking place right now to confirm that. And unrelated, I got a call on Wednesday. One of the dozen tests that I've taken over the past couple of months was a pulmonary function test, and I was also diagnosed with COPD. So that's fun. I'm kidding. But I'm trusting God throughout all of this. And at the conclusion, some people had asked, and so I wanted to make sure that you knew at the conclusion of service today, before I leave and go away for a month, I would invite you, if you should so choose and feel led, I'm going to come down and we'll have a moment of prayer at the conclusion of service, and I will allow you to pray with me and over me. But during this time, I'm getting away to allow God to restore and refresh my body physically and my mind, because I haven't been taking time like I need to. So I'm going out of town for this month, and I'm going to allow God to renew me and seek a fresh vision as a husband, a father, and pastor. And before I leave, I wanted to take this first Sunday of our Sabbath month of July and encourage you to take the fourth commandment seriously. Sabbath isn't easy. Work 6 days, rest 1 day. It sounds simple, but it's so difficult for us to do. The reason is because whether we like to admit it or not, we kind of really like to be in control. There are some that I would say even rise to the level of control freak. Now, some of you may not realize it, so I want to take a little survey here. And when I say survey, I'm not asking for a show of hands. Just want you to self-evaluate here. The first one is driving. How many of you need to be the one driving when you go somewhere? Again, I don't need to see your hand. Just ask yourself that. If you're going somewhere with the family, are you okay with somebody else driving? Some of you are like, oh yeah, I don't want to drive. I'll let the other. Okay. What about where you sit? Not in the car, just anywhere. You choose where you sit at a restaurant, at your house, at church. If you come in and someone is sitting in the seat that you normally sit in, do you have a moment of, who's in my seat? I'm getting a little closer to home there. In my home church in Fort Meade, when they were building the new building, they had people sponsor pews. And there were little metal plates at the end of the pew that had the name of who was sponsoring it. And my grandparents were some of the sponsors of one of the pews, and I didn't want to sit where they sponsored the pew. It was too close to the front. So my seat was elsewhere. But seat control freaks sit where they want. It may be for comfort. It might be for convenience. When I'm going to a restaurant, I don't like to sit with my back to the door. Not that I'm going to, that there's anybody chasing me and I'm worried that someone's going to come in. I'm not like some Ethan Hunt from Mission Impossible and I have to eye all the exits and see if anything happens. I mean, I can't run anyway. What am I going to do? It's just a comfort thing. You know the old saying, you don't have to be the fastest one to outrun a bear. You just can't be the slowest. If a bear's chasing you, look, just get near me. You'll be able to outrun me. The bear will get me. It'll be okay. Laugh with me. Come on. It's fun. Oh, I can't laugh. This is awkward. Yes, it is. Here's one more. The remote control. How many of you are remote control freaks? When you sit down to watch TV, who's the one that decides what you're putting on? Or maybe you let someone else pick, but you're the one that controls the volume. And then you've got the ones that are pro-caption and anti-caption. And you're like, no, if the captions are on the TV, I'm reading them, and if I'm reading them, I'm not watching it. And I go back and forth. There's sometimes I want it because I can't hear, and other, but it's all little things about control. I may not have hit on anything specific with you, but these are pretty simple things. Sometimes it's difficult to relinquish control in our lives. And while some of these are funny, the truth is we have a difficult time letting go of things that we consider valuable. It's not the easiest thing to turn over control of something that you value, especially when what you value is a gift from God in the first place. Why would I relinquish control of a blessing that God has given me? It's not like God or that this is from the enemy. My time is a gift from God. But we try to control even the gifts that God's given us. Maybe your control issues are legit. There might have been a time in your life when you gave up control to somebody else and they ended up hurting you. And so now you want to hold on tightly because you're not going to let yourself be vulnerable and open up to that kind of hurt again. Maybe you were trained at a young age to do things for yourself and you don't have to depend on anybody else. But one of the hardest things for us to let go of is the control of our schedule or our time. We're control freaks when it comes to how we spend our time. But God has given us a plan for how we are to do this. And it goes back to that fourth commandment in Exodus chapter 20, beginning in verse 8. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, you or your son, your daughter, your male servant or your female servant, or your livestock, or the sojourner who is within your gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea and all there is in them, and rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. And it's as simple as that. 7 days, God created 6, He rested 1. He gives us 7 days, 168 hours, 10,080 minutes, 604,800 seconds, all in a week. They're a gift that God has given us. And what He asks is that we set aside one of those 7 and dedicate that day to Him. Time is a very precious resource. They aren't making any more of it. You have just as much time in a day as the person sitting next to you. I used to think, man, if I just had 1 more hour in the day, you know how much more I would accomplish? You know how much more rest I would get? When the reality is I wouldn't use that extra hour for rest. I would fill it up with something else to do. But God established Sabbath as a gift for us. And He wants us to spend the gift of rest that He has by taking on His peace, by taking on His strength in His presence. And that's it. I've said it a couple times, but the reality is it is a gift. What God has given us, the gift of rest. He gives it to us and He has expectations. But He's not going to force you to follow it. That's not how it works. God doesn't say, here's 6 days, and on the 7th day, I am going to use you like a puppet and a marionette, and I'm going to make you go to church. I'm going to make you sit down. I'm going to make you... No, it has to be your choice. If you don't have a choice in it, then it's not free will. He's given us the ability to make our own decisions, but He's also given us the instruction on what's the right decision to make. It would be like me giving you the keys to a brand new car. Here you go, brand new car. All you've got to do is maintain it correctly. Keep it clean, put the right fuel in, change the oil every 3,000 miles, make sure your tire pressure is correct, and you go out and say, this is my car. It's a gift to me. I'll do what I want with it. And you think, well, changing the oil is a waste of your resources. And so you're not going to bother with that. You never change the oil. Bad things will happen to the gift I've given you if you don't properly maintain it. Get this. That's not me sabotaging your gift. Well, this car Rodney gave me it's a lemon. It's breaking down. Well, how many miles does it have on it? Well, I put 100,000 miles on it. Okay, it's 100,000 miles. You're way past the lemon. Well, yeah, it's breaking down. Would you change the oil? I ain't doing all that mess. I gave you the gift. I told you how to use it. And if it's going to last, then you have to follow the instructions. But because of the decisions you make, the car breaks down, the whole situation becomes a mess. God gave us regular maintenance instructions on our lives. The oil change, the tune-up. We have a built-in day of the week that God has given us to renew. We all have these 7 days. But on that 7th day, we set it aside and we rest. We let Him have control. We let go of what we are trying to control. But far too often, believers don't do that, and they wonder why their lives are breaking down. Why is my marriage struggling so much? It could be because you're not taking the Sabbath seriously. Why am I having such a rough time with my kids? Maybe it's because you're not setting aside the Sabbath and honoring your Heavenly Father, so your earthly children are living in disrespect or rebellion. Why do I have so many health problems? Maybe it's because we're not letting go of control and allowing God to do the regularly scheduled maintenance. Oh, I get it. That one hits close to home for me. It's not God coming into your marriage and destroying it. It's not God coming into the lives of your children and messing them up. It's not God stepping in and ruining your health. It's us being control freaks, and we know better. So for the rest of our time, the next few minutes, we're going to look at how we can let go. I'm going to take an example. This example doesn't have anything specifically to do with Sabbath, but it has very much to do with letting go of control. In John chapter 6, Jesus he's gaining in popularity. People are following him all over the place. They hear that he's teaching, he's performing miracles, and everywhere he goes, the crowd gets larger. He speaks things that change people's lives, and that whenever he would go somewhere, the crowd would just increase, and it was almost like paparazzi. He would hear that they would hear that he was going somewhere, and they were already there when he arrived in that place. In this passage, thousands came to hear him. They came to be healed. They came to experience Jesus. After a while, the people grow hungry, but there's no place for them to eat. Beginning in verse 5 in John 6. Lifting up his eyes then and seeing a large crowd was coming toward him, Jesus said to Philip, "Where are we to buy bread so that these people may eat?" He said this to test him, for he himself knew what he would do. Philip answered, 200 denarii worth of bread would not be enough for each of them to get a little. Now, we don't know a whole lot about Philip in the New Testament. In fact, this is his moment. He can shine in this story. Jesus knows what he's about to do, and here he is testing Philip by asking him, where is there anywhere that they can buy bread? Where are we going to get food to feed these thousands of people? And the very first thing that Philip responds is that it would take 6 months' salary to buy enough bread to feed all these people. But see, nowhere in this passage does Jesus ask Philip, how much money do we need? He says, where can we get the bread? He doesn't ask, how are we going to raise funds? Philip is thinking, Jesus wants to feed these people, but is it really worth it to spend all that money on food? I mean, can't we just let them go on their way and they can be responsible for their own food? See, Philip is thinking outside of what Jesus was doing. He's trying to solve a problem, but he's not taking into account that standing right there is the Messiah, the Son of God, with all authority and power. Jesus asks him a question, and he answers a question that Jesus didn't ask. Verse 8, one of the disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, said to him, "There's a boy here who has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish, but what are they for so many?" This boy, he almost gets overlooked. And his name isn't ever mentioned, but Andrew recognizes that he has something to offer. And I love that it's a boy, not that it's a male, but it's just a little boy. That word in the Greek, it literally translates little boy or young child. It's not just some dude. It's a kid. It's a kid who had something. All these men are trying to figure out what to do. You got Philip over there trying to figure out how he's going to raise enough money, half a year's worth of wages, to give a piece of bread to everybody out there. You've got Andrew who said, well, here's a boy, but what's this little bit of food going to do? But the little boy says, here's my lunch. You can have it if you want it. He knows what needs to be done. He's not worried about how he's going to eat. He's not worried that he won't have enough. He just knew Jesus asked, and he provided. You don't have to figure everything out on your own. You just have to answer the question that's being asked. You just have to have faith that when you give God something of value, that you can trust whatever it is in His hands, that it's going to be better in His hands than yours. So this kid let go and gave Jesus the most precious thing he had because Jesus asked for it. Now for me, when it comes to time, I try to squeeze the most out of every moment that I can. And I'm having to learn to be better about it. Typically, when we would go on vacation as a family, it wasn't a vacation to get away and relax and rest. When I would go on vacation, I fill the day. So we go somewhere, we're up early. Come on, get up, let's go. We got to go. We're going to fill the day with everything that we can do to experience. When we've taken our kids, when they turn 10 years old, and we take them to Washington, D.C., that's not a relaxing vacation. We're up at dawn, and we're all the way past sundown, looking at things, monuments at moonlight, all the things. Fill it up. When we went on our kids' graduation trip, we went all across the country, saw things we've never seen, and I've come home from vacation more exhausted than when I left. Well, isn't that kind of counterproductive? Well, I wanted to squeeze every moment possible. I don't know what it's like to come back from vacation refreshed. But God gave us Sabbath, one day a week to do just that. And He's asking us, just let go one day a week. Verse 10, Jesus said, have the people sit down. Now there was much grass in the place, so the men sat down, about 5,000 in number. Jesus then took the loaves, and when He had given thanks, He distributed them to those who were seated, and also the fish, as much as they wanted. And when they had eaten their fill, He told the disciples, gather up the leftover fragments, that nothing may be lost. So they gathered them up and filled 12 baskets with fragments from the 5 barley loaves left by those who had eaten. Now, this miracle is one of the more popular miracles in the Bible. It's one of the most told stories in the New Testament. In fact, it's one of the few stories that makes it into all 4 Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. Every one of them tells this story. Jesus could have snapped His fingers and food appeared. He didn't even need a little boy to offer Him his lunch, his picnic basket. He could have just, when people were complaining about there not being any food, this isn't unprecedented. Manna came from heaven. When they woke up in the morning, there was manna on the ground. They could have blinked, and in a moment, bread from heaven at their feet. It could have been like when Jesus told the disciples, cast your nets on the other side. They've been fishing all night. And when they pulled up their nets, there was a catch like they had never seen. The nets begin to break. That's not how He chose to do this miracle. Instead, He chose to wait for somebody to be willing to let go of what they had so He could bless it and multiply it. And when this boy does just that, when he let go, God blessed him in return. Jesus blessed him beyond measure. Well, did that boy leave rich? No. In fact, all we really know is that he was fed. He came with his lunch, and there was enough food when Jesus blessed and multiplied it that no one left hungry, so that means that little boy got back what he had let go and given to Jesus. Well, where's the blessing? That's just one for one. The blessing is, because of his obedience, he got to take part in a miracle, in one of the most amazing things to happen, that I'm quite certain in that young boy's life, he had never experienced anything quite like that. When he let go of what he had for himself, he was blessed in return. When you relinquish control, when you let go of control of your schedule and your time, God will bless you back in abundance. Does that mean that God will give you more hours in the day? No. It's not likely that that's what will happen. But when we give him one day a week, what he gives us back, you will receive his peace. You will receive the rest that you take during a month of Sabbath, during a day of Sabbath, one day per week. The rest that we get back in return for relinquishing control is more effective than taking time out and just taking a nap in the middle of the afternoon. It's when we rest in his peace. It's not from this world. The Spirit fills us and is with us, and that supernatural rest that we receive, we become more efficient, and we have enough rest to balance out the rest of our time that we do have for ourselves. God's not going to add more hours in the day, but he will give you enough strength and enough peace to sustain you for the rest of the time. Again, this is one of the few stories that's mentioned in all four Gospels. In the other Gospels, in Matthew, Mark, and Luke, this story is from John, but in Matthew, Mark, and Luke, it has a detail that John doesn't. It's the disciples that are the ones that hand out the food. The disciples, Jesus was given the loaves and the fish. He blessed it, and the disciples began to distribute it. He just said, feed them. And they did. They didn't walk out there with a forklift and a pallet full of bread and fish. But when they reached in and began to hand food to those who were hungry, those who were in attendance, it didn't run out. Every time they reached in to hand out more food, they go to the next person, the basket still had more, until thousands of people were fed. That took some trust on the disciples. I'm sure it only took a couple of times for them to realize what was happening. Here's some bread and fish. Here's a filet of fish sandwich. Here's a filet of fish sandwich. And after about the fourth or fifth one, they're like, there's a lot of sandwiches still left in here. Until 5,000 men were fed. Every single week, we trust that when we reach into our lives and we give God that one day a week as a Sabbath, dedicated, sanctified, holy to him, that what he gives us in return is his peace and his rest that are greater than any time we could carve out on our own. That the supernatural peace that as Paul said in Philippians, that transcends understanding. Don't be anxious about anything, but in prayer, making our petitions known to God. With prayer and thanksgiving, we make our petitions known to God. And the peace which surpasses all understanding, guard your hearts and minds through Jesus. Every week we have to let go. Like that trapped monkey, if you don't let go, you'll never be able to receive the rest that God gives you. Because we need to come to Him with open hands. If you want to receive the rest that He offers you, turn loose of the control just one day. Well, but I need to. Pastor, I need to work. I need to be available to work. I've got to do this. If I don't work, if I'm not available 7 days a week, I'm not going to make my bills. Let me translate that. I have to do this because I don't fully trust that God will supply all my needs according to His riches and glory through Jesus. Well, I didn't say that. No, what you did say, though, is that I know God said, but I need to do this. And you're holding on, and you're stuck. Let go. It's time to let go today. It's not about the day. It's really not even about the time. It's about your heart. He wants to know that you trust Him with everything. And that you show that trust by allowing Him to have control. See, here's the thing. He knows your heart. He knows it better than you do. We're not going to convince God of something that's not true. But God, I really do trust you. All right, then let go. Well, but I trust you, but I'm going to hold on to this just a little bit. Then you don't trust me. Trust is difficult. When we put our trust in things of this world, they'll fail us. I'm not saying that so you'll never trust people. No, that's part of it. We trust. But when you trust in Him, He cannot fail. So when you give Him that one day, what you're saying is, you're in control, God. You're in control not just of my 1 day a week. You're in control of all 7. And I'm showing you, not to convince you of something, but I'm showing you so that I can receive this rest and this peace. I'm showing you so that I can be empowered by your Spirit on this 1 day a week. And look, I understand there's some that schedules make it difficult on Sunday. Culturally, we are set up that Sunday is our Sabbath. Originally, when God established Sabbath, it was Saturday. But after the resurrection of Jesus, when the cultural calendar began to shift, Sabbath was observed on Sunday because that was the day of Jesus' resurrection. So, I mean, you can dig in and say, well, you know, Sabbath is actually Saturday instead of Sunday. Or you can say, well, whatever. You know what is the bigger picture here? That you trust Him. You might have 2 days off during the week, and those 2 days are in the middle of the week. If you're watching online today because you had to work and couldn't be here on Sunday, but you're watching it on your day off, take that day as your Sabbath, sanctify it, set it apart, make it holy to God, and rest. Worship Him and receive. Let go of what you're trying to control, and with open hands, go before the throne room and say, God, I'm not in control. I trust you. You could require every day to be sanctified for you. But I give you this 1 day because it's what you asked for. And bigger picture, giving God this one day is actually giving him your heart. I don't want to be the monkey that holds on so tightly to what I believe to be good that I miss out on the greater blessing of Sabbath, on the greater blessing of the rest and the peace that God has in store for me. So, as a person, as a pastor, a father, and a husband, I am trying to change that. I'm going away for this time of renewal and refreshing and healing, fully trusting God that when I come back, I will be stronger, more clear in focus, with fresh vision for Ridge Community Church, for my wife, for my children. And I encourage you to do that during this month. We're not having Wednesday night Connect classes. So on that Wednesday night when you would normally be here, consecrate that time. Worship God. Read His Word. Rest in His presence. We're not having men's Bible study or breakfast. We're not having ladies' night or morning out. Take those moments, set them aside, sanctify it as worship and rest in God's presence. We stand.